We're here with Joe Gibbs, the keynote speaker from this year's MFG meeting in Orlando, Florida. How are you today, Joe?
Yeah, I'm doing great. You guys have a pretty good place to hang out here.
I think so, indeed.
Nice.
So the beginning of your speech, you mentioned that you have partnerships with a number of the companies that are in attendance here. What kind of competitive advantage do you think it gives you to have your own manufacturing facility for your team?
Well, if you can imagine in racing, it's the area of biggest growth right now for our race team. We have 2 8-hour shifts going nonstop with all our technical equipment. And really what we're doing there is our engineers see parts and pieces on the car that could be redesigned so that they're stronger, lighter, which is a big deal for us. And then what we can actually do is actually build those parts. And now the other part of that is also that you don't have to depend on an outside vendor to make something, have a bad day, and we lose a race because something breaks. So a big part of what we're doing at Joe Gibbs Racing now is we're building over 2,000 parts for our cars. And it's an ongoing process that really helps us.
What kind of details can you give us about your manufacturing facility?
Well, I'm the PE major, so that's ballroom, dancing, and handball. I'm probably not the best guy as the owner. When I walk back there, I'm amazed. I'm looking around. But basically, we have an ever-growing group of, we have engineers designing things. We have the actually guys that run the machinery. And it's a whole process really that we have a lot of specific type materials and stuff that we're allowed to use, some that we can't use. And so it's pretty technical. We design a lot of those parts and pieces, and a lot of them have to be tested before we'd actually put them in the race car. So you'd probably put them on motors or cars and actually go to test with them before you would actually be willing to just, put them on the car. Now what we can do there too, which I think is we can solve a lot of problems. You break something, you have a problem with something, you look at it in the way it's designed and say, look, we could do a better job of this. And that's really where the better race teams, because up there, just a fraction of a second can make a difference between winning and losing.
Indeed. Now another theme you kind of got to in your keynote was a little bit about the importance of adaptability and team building. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think you definitely you're continually, I think in our sport, and what I found in most businesses, it's a fast-paced world. We're going quick. And you think about today in the business world, all these people here today for the meetings, we'll be looking at all the new high-tech stuff that's going on, different ways that we communicate with each other. And so what I've said, the NFL moves and changes at roughly 30% a year, which means that you're going extremely quick. There's new technology, new defenses, free agency, all the different things that can change in pro sports, salary caps, all those different things. And so it's a fast-paced world. And so I think knowing that, I think we got to stay on top of things. And so that's a big part of what we do too, is looking out in advance, trying to design parts and pieces that we feel like will put us ahead.
Now, in addition to all your accomplishments with both NFL and NASCAR, I understand you also founded Youth for Tomorrow. Can you tell us about that program?
Youth for Tomorrow is exciting. I was the group here made a contribution, which I was excited to Youth for Tomorrow. Youth for Tomorrow is kind of one of the wildest things. About 1983, we sat down with 4 people and said, what could we do for kids? We saw a lot of kids that were 14 to 18-year-olds that I'd worked with at different places in court systems, that at that point they become big enough where a lot of people are kind of afraid to work with them, but a lot of them I think realize they've fallen behind in education and really lost the ability to compete in the world. I saw many that had struggled reading, and so you're seeing a lot of kids like that, and they eventually are either going to be in an institution someplace or somebody's going to help them. Designed a youth home, the community built it. It was all private funds, and from that point to this point, we teach godly principles there. We have house parents that live full-time there. The kids live full-time. A lot of them may have parole officers and what have you, but it's an opportunity, and it's normally, with a 14 to 18-year-old, it may be the last opportunity that they have to straighten their life out. And we work from anywhere from 45, 50 kids to 70 kids. We also have a Mommy and Me program. Right now we have 6 girls living there with their babies. And so we try and help young people in that age bracket. And we also have a year-round school. And so get them re-educated, love them, and hopefully get them started back on the right track.
What inspired you to found that program?
It was, I had been involved, like I mentioned, when I was in Tampa, coaching in Tampa, I got involved with a number of kids at a delinquent facility they had here, and saw a lot of kids about that age that really were looking to you to, they knew they needed help. Moved to Washington, D.C., got the job there. Happened to mention to a Sunday school class a friend, I'd love to get involved with kids, you know, particularly like that group. And he said, hey, that's part of what I do. I house kids that are going through the court system in downtown D.C. Went down there and kind of saw the same problems. And a young person doesn't need an hour or two. They need full-time attention, be able to reestablish their education, have somebody love them. In many cases, you know, what's happened today in America, so many young people have no one to look after them. And so that's what the home was geared for, and so that's kind of how we got started with it.
That's great. Well, thank you so much for being here and spending some time with us today. It's been a pleasure to meet you.
I think it was a great group. I appreciate it. I think they fit in. A lot of our partners were out there in the audience, so I had a great time.
Thank you. This has been Penny Brown with IMTSTV.
Need to connect with your customers using social media? Be there with IMTS.com. Everyone has been chatting about connecting with their fans or customers on Twitter and Facebook and other sites to discuss or bemoan what's happening. So what does this have to do with manufacturing? Everything. That's because social media isn't an isolated tactic. It is just one of the tools you can use to connect and engage your customers. Ask them how their business is faring. Ask them what they think about the current political atmosphere in Washington. Or ask them how you can help them succeed. Another social media option, and one that can increase traffic to your website by 55%, is to write a blog. Ask your employees. Some may already be writing blogs on their own. Engage them in promoting your company, your products, or your services. Have them write about how they help a customer, or better yet, ask that customer how your employee helped them. Everyone is talking. Are you part of the conversation? People don't buy from companies or a website, they buy from people, and they are more likely to buy from people they know or feel connected to. So connect with the IMTS Show on Facebook, Twitter, or LinkedIn, or read our blog by visiting imts.com/blog. IMTS.com. Be there, online with your customers.